Well, hi Acadiana, I'm Meteorologist Dave Baker. Welcome to Let's Talk Tropics. On this Wednesday, there is quite a bit to talk about. Nothing that's really in the near-term future for the Acadiana area, but several things that we can talk about in the tropical Atlantic here that may be affecting parts of the region over the next couple of weeks or so. So there are quite a few items that we'll have to go over this time around. So let's go ahead and get started. First of all, it really is a nice day across Acadiana. We've got some haze and some cloud cover and some sunshine mixed in. Temperatures have been running close to 90 degrees, and I think low 90s will be a good bet for our forecast later today. But there's a quick look at the traffic cams, and the roadways are dry. It looks like it's turned out to be a fairly decent day. Most areas are experiencing some slightly lower humidity today to make it a little bit more comfortable. So let's get right to it. We'll go ahead and start with the National Hurricane Center's 7-day tropical weather outlook. And yesterday, most of you who joined us, we had gotten the brand new one that indicated maybe a slight chance for some development here over southwest Florida and then moving out into the Atlantic. That is still the case. And just to let you know, the hurricane reconnaissance aircraft are scheduled now to go out there tomorrow. We kind of hinted about that yesterday, but it is on the official plan for tomorrow. We'll wait and see if they actually go or not. It all depends on how organized this system gets as it moves over into the Atlantic Ocean. But it's really just one piece of the puzzle that we're looking at of several items that could come out of this surge of tropical moisture that's basically coming in from the Caribbean Sea. So you know we've been talking about this particular area here for about the last week and a half or so. And the National Hurricane Center is now watching the southern part of the Gulf and the Bay of Campeche for some possible tropical development sometime over the next 7 days. Not a great chance, 20% or less is about it, but it is definitely worth watching. So that first disturbance is at least the low pressure area we think is right over central Florida. And I will show you a satellite picture that gives us a little bit more proof that the low is over land. And most of the computer models are forecasting some development now of this system as it moves out into the Atlantic Ocean. And as I said, the Hurricane Hunter aircraft are going to probably go out into this particular area right about in here. Boy, this thing does not want to work with me. But there's the area that they're going to be investigating if they indeed go out there for tomorrow. So let's go ahead and start with the Gulf of Mexico satellite. There are a number of features. Of course, the low we think is right about in here over central and northern portions of Florida. And if you look real close, you can see a little bit of low-level spin there. A lot of the moisture is out here, and that's going to be streaming over the southern part of the Florida Peninsula. And then on top of that, we've got a frontal boundary that's kind of draped here across the northern part of the Gulf of Mexico, and that's providing some widely scattered showers here along the Louisiana Gulf Coast and some slightly drier air out here over central Louisiana. So we've gotten a little taste of some drier air here at home. So the area that they're watching right now is there, and then later on in the week, we'll be watching the southern part of the Gulf of Mexico as the models are still trying to develop something out there. Central American satellite, again, we've got this huge plume of moisture that's continuing to slide out of the Caribbean Sea, and it's kind of feeding that area. There is a bit of a tropical wave out there too, but we've got high pressure over the Atlantic. We've got a low pressure trough over the west, and that's helping to funnel in that moisture out of the Caribbean and moving into the southern part of the Gulf of Mexico, kind of feeding that area that's festering right now. Looks like maybe a little bit of Saharan dust could be across the eastern part of the Caribbean Sea, right about in that area there. But we've got a couple of tropical waves. One's right there, one's right there. We've got another one that's coming here, another one out to the west. And they really are lining up. And this is normal for this time of the year to see these tropical waves lining up across the Atlantic Ocean. What is a little bit unusual, though, is this particular tropical wave. And I'll give you a little better look at this at the eastern Atlantic Ocean. This tropical wave looks pretty robust. It's still well out into the eastern part of the Atlantic Ocean. The waters are relatively cool out here, so we wouldn't expect any development initially, but as it starts to move off toward the west, we could see the possibility of some development. And we're going to talk a little bit about the models when it comes to what we think might be this tropical wave about 10 days from now. Also, a lot of tropical, or rather a lot of Saharan dust now starting to come off. Will that get in the way of that tropical wave over the Atlantic Ocean? We'll just kind of have to wait and see. But it is kind of an unusually large blob of thunderstorms that has tended to hold on as it rolled off the African coast. Usually you don't start seeing this kind of activity until maybe halfway through July, and we're only not even halfway through June just yet. So something that we will be watching. So let's go ahead and focus again on what could be affecting the Acadiana region. We're really not going to focus a whole lot on the tropical disturbance that's already over here, because we think that's going to go ahead and move out into the Atlantic waters and wouldn't be affecting us here in Louisiana. So we're going to go back 24 hours like we've done before. I want to go through the same model, the same time period, and we're going to be talking about Monday at midday-ish. So Monday, June 17th. So what's that? 6 days from now? 5 days from now? And there's a lot of tropical moisture that's building in the western part of the Gulf of Mexico. This is basically the same setup that we've seen now for the past several days. So yesterday we showed you this map. This was the model that ran right after it. You don't see a whole lot of change there. The following model, still, again, not seeing a whole lot of change. And one of the things that we look for is consistency from model run to model run. And when we start getting within that 5 to 6 day period, a lot of times you'll get more consistency there. So let's stop with this particular model. This one ran very early this morning, and you can see a bit of a trough of low pressure, maybe a closed low trying to develop there over the Bay of Campeche, but still it looks very similar compared to the other models that we've seen in previous runs. Now, this is the one that just finished a few minutes ago, and we're going to go a little farther out on this GFS too, because I know it's what's going to be all over social media a little bit later on this afternoon. Mark my words, and we'll get to that in just a minute. But again, there is a lot of consistency here, a trough of low pressure over the western part of the Gulf of Mexico. But I will say the latest GFS has a little bit more of a closed low coming into the Mexican coast sometime during the early part of next week. But all of those models will go back and we'll go forward, 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 and then this is the latest one. As you see, there's a lot of consistency from model run to model run, but that's just one model. So let's just kind of grab the latest Euro model. And if you look at today's model on the GFS and the Euro model, the latest run that we had earlier today, there's not much change there either. In fact, the Euro is putting a fairly well-defined low pressure area here over the Bay of Campeche, and similar to the latest GFS, kind of taking it out here toward western or eastern parts of Mexico. So that is the scenario there, which would tend to pull some of the moisture away from Louisiana. But I think here along the Gulf Coast, we still need to be prepared for at least an unsettled weather pattern to start up next week, with I think more widespread or the potential for some heavy tropical downpours will be returning. So now let's go a little bit farther out in the future, because I want to tease you a little bit. And as I said, if it's not already on social media now, it will be. So this, we're just going to run the GFS all the way basically to its end. And ooh, what's that in the middle part of the Gulf of Mexico and heading toward Louisiana? Here's the original trough that we're continuing to watch. But remember that big tropical wave that was out in the middle part of the Atlantic that I showed you? Well, that is going to continue to ride off toward the west. And as I said, there's probably not going to be much development over the Atlantic because the waters are a little too cool. But this model is suggesting, and the last model suggested something developing too, but had it go over toward the Florida Panhandle. And the latest one is now coming toward Acadiana. So again, my guess is that someone's going to screenshot this. It will be all over social media later today, and then it's going to get shared like crazy. Now, it's okay to share these things as long as you use the right context, that this is more than a week and a half out, and us in the meteorology business call this la-la land because we just can't really see what's going on. But if we continue to watch this model and the consistency between model run and model run continues to show something developing, then we start to get a little bit more concerned. But at this time of the year, anything that's developing or potentially could develop out there is definitely worth watching. And one of the reasons is because the waters are extremely warm over the western Atlantic. They're literally more like early August temperatures rather than mid-June. So we're ahead of schedule on the warmer waters. So, I mean, if anything wants to try to develop over the middle part of the Gulf of Mexico, it's not, unless it's got wind shear, it's really not going to have any problems developing there. And then the western part of the Caribbean as well. All those temperatures are over 27 degrees Celsius, which is that magic number of 80 on the Fahrenheit scale. And we've even got some warmer waters in the western Atlantic leading up to the Leeward and Windward Islands. So that tropical wave that's way out here might have some time to fester if it moves over those warmer waters of the Caribbean Sea. Tropical cyclone heat potential is also there. This is basically measuring the fuel. The higher octane fuel, I guess, is if you want to talk about it that way. But we've got those 80-degree surface temperatures, but in these areas that are shaded in red here, those are areas that we're probably seeing the waters very deep where they're warm. So if something were to try to churn its way across the Caribbean Sea, it wouldn't be pulling up any colder waters that would inhibit its development. It would continue to pull up very warm waters from below the surface. So again, it's kind of some high octane fuel for developing tropical systems. Now, there are a few things that will go against a developing tropical system this time of year, and it's the wind shear. And this is where we are at this moment right now, and there's a lot of wind shear here along the northern Gulf Coast. Where that low wants to develop and move out to the east, move out into the Atlantic Ocean, there might be a little weakness in the wind shear, so it might have a little potential for some development there off the Florida coast before it starts to make its way off toward the west. And there are some lowering wind shear values here over the Bay of Campeche, which could play into what might develop sometime this coming weekend. And this is the map for early Monday morning. So remember, this model was suggesting a low pressure area here over the Bay of Campeche, and there is some lower wind shear there, so it might at least have a chance. So again, when there aren't any tropical systems affecting us, these are the things that you can do now. Get the batteries, flashlight, water, non-perishable food, update your first aid kit, make sure you check on your levels of medicine and where you would get medicine if you needed to evacuate. Personal hygiene items and house cleaners are always good to have on hand, and there's plenty of this out there right now, so you don't have to fight anybody at the store. Gather up your IDs, insurance, important papers, and save them as digital. Take a picture of them. That way you got them on your phone. And then for home, if you're going to stay for a hurricane or a tropical storm, make sure you got a basic tool set, entertainment for the kids, and plenty of pet supplies as well. Also wanted to remind you that tomorrow there's going to be several people that are speaking at Parish Prepared. This is the Community Emergency Response Team over in Iberia Parish, and at 5:30 at Slyman Theater, that's on historic Main Street. That's the one with the big Evangeline sign that's so pretty there. There will be a gathering of the public and some speakers talking about how to get ready for hurricane season. I will be among those speakers. So if you want to join us, that'll be tomorrow evening at 5:30. Again, New Iberia's Slyman Theater there on historic Main Street. And I am reading on Facebook that there might be some giveaways, some survival kit giveaways there. So if you maybe don't have all of the supplies that were on that previous list, or maybe you just want something that's already prepackaged for you, this might be something for you, and you will learn a lot as well on how to be prepared, how to take care of yourself, and what to do if you need to evacuate. So again, that's tomorrow at 5:30 at New Iberia's Slyman Theater. I hope to see you there. If you enjoy Let's Talk Tropics, please like this video and also subscribe to the channel and turn on those notifications. That way, if any severe weather comes up, you'll get a note or you'll get an alert that we are doing a live stream. If there's severe weather, it'll also let you know when Let's Talk Tropics goes live. And it will also give you a little alert for our morning show called Acadiana Weather Today, where I just do a short little morning forecast between you and I, have a chat on my back porch, and we discuss how the weather's going to affect our day. So if you want to go ahead and go to YouTube and like that channel and subscribe to the channel, you'll get all the notifications and you will be ready for hurricane season. I'm Meteorologist Dave Baker. I hope you have a great rest of your Wednesday afternoon, and I hope to see you early tomorrow morning.